Hey GDQ, my name is Gelly and I'm here to do a submission for the Talos Principle 2, and on commentary I have the great BobbyBurm. Say hi.
Hello, hello.
And this will be an any percent run, which should take less than an hour and 20 minutes. Because there's quite a few cutscenes, we'll have time to explain everything during the run, so I might as well pop into the run while I can. Time starts when I start skipping this cutscene at the very beginning here. So 3, 2, 1, go.
Let's go.
So we're first going to almost immediately launch into a Quumping sequence here. So do you want to explain photo mode and Quumping while we're here?
Yeah, so photo mode just in general is a way that the game allows you normally to just kind of take a photo of the scenery, right? But we abuse this in a way where we're able to pause the game and we're able to like basically do an intermittent, like what seems like a double jump, but we're able to consecutively add more and more jumps as we're able to click photo mode on and off again. Is the one sentence summary of how that works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anything you wanted to add about that?
I gotta do some dialogue here. So there used to be in the demo, in case you're curious, a way to skip this dialogue sequence, which involved hitting photo mode right at the beginning of this. But unfortunately, they've patched it since then. An interesting thing about the demo is it gave us an opportunity to find all these glitches before the game actually came out, but lo and behold, they patched a bunch of these. Here's an interesting usage of photo mode. When you press photo mode and then leave that sequence, you actually re-enable sprint, so that saves like 2 seconds. We'll be skipping a bunch of cutscenes from here, and then we'll be doing conference skip. Would you like to talk about conference skip?
Oh, yeah. So this is interesting. So basically, there's a sequence in the game where you're basically talking about the whole lore of the game, what's going on, about all the puzzles and everything. But what we do is we use our Qump sequence. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump consecutively using that photo mode method. So we're basically pausing the game, quickly adding a bunch of jumps. And what Gelly's going to do here is get above the map, actually, and just completely skip over like a required couple-minute long type cutscene that we have to talk to 2 different people here. We talk to an individual character and a committee. So we skip all of that by going above the map here and go over top of them, and we drop right on top of our VTOL, which is our transport of the game. So we're just right here, we're on top, that's perfect, and we're just going to hop right back down and transition past our required cutscene there.
Thankfully, we can actually skip a decent amount of it. It's not quite a minute. It's not that bad. That saves about 10 seconds.
Nice.
But we also skip an interaction with a character called Doge, which people like to call Doge because it's spelled like Doge. It's not Doge. It's Doge. We don't get to see Doge in this run, unfortunately. All right, so for the next 2 minutes and 15 seconds, we're just going to sit back and watch the game play. I guess we should talk about the Talos Principle 2. Back in 2014, this little indie game, I guess, coming from the guys who made Serious Sam, they made the Talos Principle off of all the engines of all that stuff, and it was like a sleeper hit. It was this very in-depth, many puzzle games that had a bunch of endings and a big exploration into philosophy, and unexpectedly, I think we like heard about it for a while, but like 9 years later they come out with Talos Principle 2, and so all the Talos runners have been working on this like it's the cure for cancer, and so that's where I'm at. Burm, anything to add on to that?
Yeah, this game is just one of the best sequels to a base game that I've ever seen. I mean, I like to think about a game like Portal, where the original game was fantastic and they added Portal 2. This game is similar in my eyes to that. I mean, I just love like the story and everything behind the game. It's just fantastic.
Yeah. For those of you who are familiar with Talos Principle runs, the original, this game is bigger in pretty much every way, has more puzzles, and everything is super far away, and the glitches are possibly more ridiculous, although we're only a month out, so it's kind of hard to say whether or not that's true. But I suppose one of the interesting things to add is that everything, I mean, look at how big this thing is. This thing is actually that size. You could walk up to it and interact with it.
But this game is a 71 gigabyte download.
Which is absurd. I still can't believe that. But that comes at the cost of having to run everywhere. So As it stands in the run right now, when you are forced to interact with puzzles, it is do a puzzle, do a running sequence for 30 seconds, do a puzzle, do a running sequence for 30 seconds. So we're still doing a little bit of work to see if we can get better movement tech before making that run, you know, more interesting, more marathon presentable. But any percent, according to BobbyBurm, is marathon presentable now. So that's what we're doing here. Split. I don't know if that's a +10. Yeah, that seems about right. All right. So back to gameplay. We're going to start doing Lost Lab interactions. So I've got to do all the running over here. If there's time for donation, just kidding. Do we want to talk about... Yeah. So I'm going to interact with this little handprint terminal, and it's going to go by kind of fast. Can you explain handprint IC for me?
Sure. So going up here, you just mean like when you go up and click it? And then
Yeah.
So if you go up to it and quickly IC, you're able to quickly get out of the cutscene and just basically go back and just act like it didn't even happen. You don't have to look at anything here, and just you're able to walk through the game as you see here. You're able to you double click 2 buttons, and then you're able to just keep walking through the game as if you're just still playing. So it's a cool way that you can kind of move through a transition without having to, you know, just wait there for stuff to load. It's really cool, and it skips a ton of time for you just waiting around, because there's a lot of waiting around in this game, and we abuse that so much in this game, where instead of waiting for like 20 seconds, we just start going.
And here come the dialogue skips. Would you like to talk about these?
Sure. Yeah, so the dialogue skips, similar to what we just saw. We're going to press a couple buttons really quickly. And so what we're going to do is we're going to hop back in and out of this little shuttle a few different times. So this first time is a little bit unique because it's a little bit slow to load, which we abuse here. So when we hit tab there, we actually set a checkpoint. So by setting that checkpoint there, what Gelly was doing was saying, okay, well, we basically passed the dialogue already because it triggered. And so now technically reloading into the shuttle, if we were to launch again, we're able to change our FPS here, which is a different skip. But if we launch this here, now the dialogue won't play and the shuttle actually moves quickly because the game assumes you've already heard it, and so it sends you to the next level faster, which we abuse a lot in this game. And then the next part, if you want, I can talk about here. We do the same thing and we fly through the world. Oh, barely missed it.
Hold on, I gotta try that again. I was expecting that to work a little bit differently.
While you're doing that, I can
go for it.
Yeah, so while he's getting it, it's very precise. So long story short, what we're doing here, we're loading through the level. We're going to fall through the world because loading here and pressing our 2 buttons. So I use Q and E for this, for example, to get in here and start the transition into the next level. Upon the next level, we actually fall out of the world upon loading into the real world outside of the pipe. And we actually fall out of the world, set our checkpoint by hitting tab. And what we're trying to do here is we're trying to pass through that purple gate to load into level 5 here right away. Perfect, got it. And we're able to load through 5 instead of walking all the way around.
And so now I'm going to set my FPS back to 30. Do you want to talk about why that would be relevant to all these Qumps that I'm going to do here?
Yeah, so this game, obviously, you can have a really high FPS, but we run in 30 FPS because it's actually easier to hit our jumps in between Qumps here. And so it's basically impossible at high FPS, but at 30 FPS, which is the lowest possible, I think, at the game, you're actually able to load a bunch of jumps consecutively with like relative ease once you get the pattern down on your keyboard. And so 30 FPS, a lower FPS allows us to do this in a lot easier way because the game registers your frames a little bit smoother. Smoother in regards to more clunky, but easier to hit tricks.
It's a frame perfect trick. So if you have less frames, easier to hit. Oh wow, that was pretty good.
That was still really great. Wow. As you can see, a theme across this game is just really silly looking skips for levels like that, but it comes at the cost of just like skipping the entire game, which is awesome and exactly what we want. So.
Yeah. So I'm rushing for the tower here. I have had to solve a couple puzzles, which is, as we'll see through the rest of the run, kind of unusual. The reason that I have to solve a bunch of puzzles is because in order to move from area to area, you have to fulfill a bunch of requirements. And this is the only level where that requirement is puzzles. You have to actually fulfill 5 puzzles and engage in a group call with the rest of our characters, who I guess we haven't mentioned because they haven't managed to come up yet. For each of these tower sequences, we're going to talk to a character from mythology. Haha, just kidding. If I spam E here, I can actually re-enter the elevator
just kidding, bye.
while waiting for said mythological character to load in. Let's get this cutscene here. We will get to see one of them. Actually, two. We'll get to see two. I'll make sure we get to see two of those characters because these cutscenes, I will say, they are good if you're playing this in a casual.
They're so good. Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah, group calls are kind of required in this game at certain points throughout the game, and in fact, in this level, you actually have to hit a group call before you transition. Otherwise, I think it'll kind of break your game in a bit, in a way.
Yeah, it'll freeze up in a way that's quite unpleasant.
Yeah.
Either literally or like you just can't make any progress.
Yeah, and so coming up here, we actually have to do 5 puzzles in this area in order to bypass the gate, or so to speak, in order to go to the next levels, because it literally like won't be able to load unless we complete 5 puzzles. Because obviously the game, one general thing about the game, you're supposed to complete 8 puzzles in each area. We complete literally 0 in almost all of them except for this first one. This first one we have to do 5 in order to transition out, because why would the game assume that you're not completing any puzzles? So that's what we're doing here, is completing all 5, and then we'll be able to move on to the next level.
Mm-hmm. An interesting thing to note is that this group call comes up. I don't know if you've had to encounter this, but one of my bugbears is that this group call comes up about 15 seconds from now.
Oh, yeah.
And so I don't know if you've had this happen, but I'm going to intentionally avoid it here just for the safety's sake. I'm just going to like sit here and wait for this group call to appear.
Okay.
When actions interrupt other actions, unintended effects can just ruin your ability to play the game. So for example there, I'm gonna have to do this a different way. This is fine. Oh, not the way that I wanted to do that. That's fine. I'll give it another shot. Anyways, the reason that I avoid that group call there in particular is because if you enter the capsule and you have the group call interrupt it, you will actually clip through the ground and then you'll hit a checkpoint. You won't be able to leave the level properly. So it just sewers your run. Right, we're just gonna enter this normally.
One thing I think is very funny is that whenever we have these group calls, they show like little like Discord icons
Yeah.
from like when we're calling each other. It's very silly.
Do you want to talk about the characters? Because there isn't a lot that's going to be happening for the next, I don't know how long.
Yeah, so I mean the characters all kind of have their own unique like personality. One of them is more like personable and like adventurous. Another one is more like tech. Melville's very like techie. Yaqut is kind of like our driver, and like he's like our local, I don't know what's going on kind of guy. And so throughout the game, we kind of like interact with them and they develop personalities. One thing, okay, here's a huge skip across the gap. I think it's our first full bridge skip that we see. This is really nice. This is way, by the way, this is way harder than what you would imagine what you're seeing on screen. This is like frame perfect inputs to get across these gaps. That was super well done.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like the whole thing about this game is this game allows you to have choice, and so when you're interacting throughout the game, you actually can choose different dialogue options and have different characters do certain things in some places, and you know, it actually affects the game, and it's really cool that your choices matter in this game for who cares about you at the end. So it's very cool.
Oh, I got the bad glitch.
Oh no.
You know the one, right? You've had it happen. So. Normally when interacting with the dialogue, you're allowed to skip entire sections to go from one selection to another. But for reasons that we haven't figured out yet, give us a month, it sometimes only lets you skip a line at a time, and so the dialogue ends up going a lot slower.
Oh yeah, that happens to me all the time, yeah.
All the time?
I'm just bad at the game.
No, I don't think it's a... I'm curious to know.
Joking.
Because,
no, yeah, I don't know. It happens to me sometimes. It's very weird. Like I'll right click and it'll just go through one line at a time. It's very silly.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna pick up this spark over here.
Yeah.
Just
Did you get the lab here?
That's what I'm going for right now.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, you want to talk about why we're going to the lab, actually?
Yeah, and so certain labs throughout the game. I think every level has a lab. Correct me if I'm wrong. Every level does have a lab, and so only a few of them are required in the game. I think there's only 2 in the entire game in the 90% that we're required to do, and they literally won't let you proceed unless you hit the labs. And we've seen one of them already. And so this lab is also required for you to do. So you have to download this Soma project. And here's another IC. So we're going to start moving as we're clicking here while we're loading. So you can see in the background, we're kind of trying to get up the staircase and kind of get out a little bit quicker to save a few seconds of movement time. And
Oh
then when
yeah.
we come out,
I have
we should be good.
one of my movement keys is.
That happens to me too, where like the movement keys will be stuck if you do this.
Okay. All right. Problem solved.
Nice.
There will be a lot less stumbling next time.
Yeah.
Oh,
we just
I
have to
actually
download
made
a
it
quick thing.
pretty decently far out, all things
Yeah, that's
considered.
really good. That was pretty solid. You got up like 2 staircases. Nice. Cool. So that was our I think our first. So we have technically 3 required labs. The first one is like you have to go in there just do a quick thing, but this is the first like puzzle lab that we kind of have to go to as well. The next one will be in our like wintry kind of area. And outside of that, then we'll be done with labs, and we can just get to. So the kind of cadence of this game is get to the tower, get out, kind of thing, and get to the next level as quickly as possible. But there are a couple levels where we have to hit up a lab just to download a quick thing for lore reasons.
All right, we'll do another skip here. Yeah, we're gonna end up skipping dialogue going from one section to another, except for like 1 or 2. I think we get to see our first instance of skipping the journey into a level here. So
Nice.
what'll happen coming out of this tube, kind of like what we saw with E1, where we pass through the purple barrier. What we're instead gonna do is fall out through the bottom here, hit tab, hit ESC, and then restart checkpoint. By setting a checkpoint in the duration of that travel, it defaults to right here. So we can skip having to go through that.
In a lot of these levels, one thing I'll add while he's doing this is that you can actually die if you go too fast through those, and there's like any amount of water in the level, you can actually die in that sequence.
Yeah.
So like you really need to make sure you tab quickly, set that checkpoint, and then hit restart. Otherwise you will die. So it's not like super precise, but you do have to kind of move quickly through there and reset quickly. And one other thing you'll notice is that as he's going up and down through the elevator, technically the game locks you in place, so to speak, when you hit the top of the elevator. But if you can move quickly enough, you can look down and hit E and start traveling before the dialogue starts happening. So you can kind of keep moving as the dialogue is happening when you normally have to stand still. So it saves like 5 or 10 seconds per elevator.
There'll be, well, that was one of the elevators that I was supposed to technically do it for, but the other one will eventually hit, because there's it's like the one example of one of these entities not appearing directly at the top of the elevator. The reason that I wanted to do the ability to see the entity for this one is that the checkpoint for the capsule is actually so close to the tower that you can occasionally have checkpoints override each other. And so when doing a dialogue skip, the checkpoints arrive out of order. And so instead of having your checkpoint set to the capsule, you have it set to the top of the tower, and you have to basically walk all the way down again. And it's
that
really
literally
annoying.
just happened to me in my last run. That
Right.
just happened to me.
Yeah, so the way that I normally get around that is I actually go up top and I don't go back down the elevator, because that provides just enough delay to avoid that from happening. I forgot, and so I had to like stand in place for a couple of seconds, and then I hit the checkpoint after the fact. So
That's so funny.
we're going into the megastructure for the first time. The megastructure exists. Would you like to speculate on its existence in a way that is congruent with the plot, aka?
Yeah, I don't know. So the megastructure, it's like, I don't know. The whole lore is that there's like this big structure. No one has ever been here except for the first ever robot in the society, or the first ever person in our society, Athena. So we're checking it out as a civilization, kind of for the first time, and seeing what's inside. And so it's like this big mystery that we're trying to unravel throughout the game. So we're gonna arrive at the megastructure a few times throughout the game, and they kind of, I think they get progressively harder. I think the puzzles were kind of all the same in my eyes throughout the game, but the structure inside will be entirely different every time that we show up here. So we do a bunch of different things, and I would argue some of the hardest skips in the game are inside of the megastructure. So it's really, really cool sequences.
No spoilers, but technically you visit the megastructure 5 times, but there's only 4 locations, which will come up.
Yes.
Well, in terms of a casual playthrough, yeah, we'll get there when we get there. This is one of our holy grail skips, at least personally, is I have to wait at this door for 15 seconds, and I would like to not do that. There are
Yeah,
no holes in the ceiling.
I would love to get past this.
I've literally checked everywhere. So maybe once this run makes it to GDQ, you'll see some sweet hot tech. But we're just gonna snug the camera for a bit. All right. So over here there is, well, there's normally supposed to be dialogue with Yaqut, but instead, I'm just gonna cross this bridge over here.
Yeah, Yaqut's all sad here, and he's like, "What? Like, what are we doing here? I'm a little scared and sad." But instead, we just go entirely around him. We just jump around him. We're like, "Nope, not today." So.
Yeah. he was right behind me on that bridge there, and we just missed him.
He's right behind me, isn't he?
No, not right now.
Nope, not right now.
Normally he runs after me, but he's taking his sweet dipping time. All right.
Stay off.
So we're gonna do bridges in this run.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So these are the bridges that you would normally be solving when you're done with the 8 puzzles. You get each one of those, I'd call them sigils, but they're dominoes. You get these for free. So out of convenience, when we're making our way back, I'm just gonna build those bridges ahead of time, and then
yeah, that's a good idea. I can explain this if you want while you're doing
it.
So
please go.
This goes under. This kind of goes around. These big doors. You really normally have to set up 3 lasers to open the door and go through. But that would take literally minutes, like a lot of minutes, to get all those puzzles open. So what we do is we go around the door here where there's an opening. There's a lot of kill planes here, so we have to be careful. So what Yellow's doing is he's going forward, pausing his movement like horizontally, and now just launching upwards into one of the only openings that you have in this entire area. This is incredibly difficult. It's really precise. You have to move as you're doing frame perfect inputs, and just did it like it was absolutely nothing. That is wow. That was fantastic. That was super clean. Wow. Oh my god.
It could have been cleaner, but I'll take it.
Yeah, that was really solid.
For a marathon performance, we're gonna do an IC here where I'm gonna be backing up here while waiting for this to finish up. Then we're gonna do a Miranda cutscene. BobbyBurm, who's Miranda?
Yes. Miranda is it's just a random child in the game. It's just a little child. Now Miranda is the daughter of our 2 kind of like lore main characters in the game who we're searching after the whole time, and we just kind of hear a lot of her lore throughout these cutscenes, and we kind of skip most of her input or most of her lore and dialogue throughout the game because we skip past all of these cutscenes. And so we really just kind of skip everything. Yeah, that was Act 1. Act 1 is already done. And now getting out of this area is very precise as well, just as hard as the first part. So you know how just as hard as we had to get into this back area, we have to do the same thing but written reverse. The door doesn't open after that act is done. The door stays closed if you don't open it on the way in. And so we have to now go reverse through this area in the same way we got in.
Okay. Right now, safety needs to come first. Let's go, Byron.
You got it.
I know. I just.
Nice. You got the vertical.
Okay. Alrighty.
Nice. There we go. Let's go. I cannot express how difficult that is. I mean, that is awesome. Nice job.
Yeah. The difficult part is you know, due to doing one Qump takes about, I think it's 0.3 seconds or something like that. So you have to judge approximately within that time whether or not you've made the jump coming out of photo mode, whether or not you instantly photo mode or you wait until you get enough vertical off the Qump to press photo mode again. And then you also have to be good at it. You have to have like a success rate to do vertical Qumps of like 60 something, 75% to be fast. So
like in horizontal ones like you're seeing here, like you actually have to keep your momentum because it is incredibly easy to lose momentum horizontally. Like you could just hit photo mode and you could just stop moving, but you really have to make sure you're going horizontally. That is incredibly easy to miss.
Right. So for example, when I did that sequence there, every time I did a horizontal Qump, so to speak, the sequence of moves is press escape to leave photo mode, jump on the next frame, hold W sometime after that to maintain momentum, and then within a certain window press photo mode again. And then I have to lift W. I can't hold W through that entire sequence, so it's a lot of it's a lot of tipping and tapping, and you'd get used
I
to it
was gonna
eventually.
say this game would benefit from like a controller or a keyboard cam.
Oh
Something
god,
like that.
yeah, yeah, I just have a webcam. No, I
No,
mean,
I'm saying like even in like a marathon setting.
like a
I'm
marathon
showcasing-
setting?
Yeah, being like how fast you're like clicking. It's just
Right.
it is a surprising amount of like you have to press 4 buttons every time you're jumping. So
Yeah.
it's wild.
And then, yeah, we've had to, one of the most interesting pieces of tech, so when this was originally found, we'll start there, the discoverer Nozu, shouts out to him, he thought it only worked on controller, which gave everyone a lot of panic because nobody runs on controller. I figured out eventually that you could do it on keyboard, but the issue is that you have to have a 30 seconds of a difference between the escape press and a space press, and nobody wanted to do that. So again, shoutouts to Nozu. What he figured out is you can actually leave photo mode by clicking on the escape button in the lower right. So you can actually do left-right click if you bind right click to jump. So that's been a massive quality of life improvement with this run.
Absolutely.
Is this north? We're going to north, aren't we?
Yeah, we're going north. Yeah,
Okay. I gotta make sure I'm not doing this 3 times in a row. Well,
yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, so that's another interesting thing is that like sometimes you want to do these like entrances and resets with the checkpoint more than once. I think it's to reset the dialogue properly, right? I actually
Yeah.
not entirely sure on that part.
We'll explain it more when it comes to it, but basically
Cool.
TLDR
It's south.
dialogue cues weirdly for each section differently, so
Yeah, yeah. I think that starts with like south, I believe.
I think it's up, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll be heading north here. Thankfully we can, this is I think the longest tram ride or the capsule ride or whatever you want to call it, entering and exiting, so the fact that we get to skip the entrance for that is remarkable. These dialogue skips are, I don't know how recent they are. I think they're within a week old, so it's made the run so much better, on God.
I mean, yeah, it's like what, like 20, 30 minutes faster now, or like from fastest time we've seen.
Yeah. So current world record is a 1:12. Okay, so I'm gonna pop out of here. An interesting thing to note while we're here is that there's actually a little bit of time before that happens, so I can actually run away and jump while waiting for that to happen. I picked the wrong dialogue option. It happens. Okay.
That's all right.
Here's some fun tech. So normally we'd
I
run
love
back
this.
and then go down the elevator, but instead I'm just gonna jump off the edge and
Yoink.
etch this. Oh yeah,
I
that's
just love
very
that. It's
good.
so that was satisfying. Let's go.
All right, and then we'll be doing another one of these to skip the dialogue coming out of here. But the time save from dialogue skips, I think it's only 5 minutes, but it's the sort of thing that makes people more amenable to actually running the game. By people, I
And
mean,
you know, it's like a quality of life thing where you don't have to listen to like the same person saying the same piece of dialogue every time you play the game, kind of thing. And it just makes it a lot better.
it was getting to that point. I guess I should explain in terms of the dialogue here. So every time you enter and exit an area, dialogue can cause your tram ride to... Basically, the way that it works is it plays the dialogue while you're going through that hole that goes from one area to another. And if dialogue is still playing,
Nice.
the tunnel will basically be infinite until the dialogue finishes. It never cuts off certain types of dialogue. So it's important that we skip dialogue, A, so that we don't have that infinite tunnel, and B, the capsule rides are actually twice as fast as long as no dialogue is playing.
Yeah, you'll notice how fast those trams go. Like every time we're getting out. Normally they're like half the speed as that. They go
They're
really
literally
slow.
half the speed, yeah.
It's so slow, and you can tell immediately if you did it right or wrong because of just the major difference that it makes. So you really get out of those levels really quickly. And so I cannot express how long this game normally is, and getting it down to like an hour in like 20 or 10 already. Now we're approaching is just ludicrous.
It's absurd. The main thing that's holding us back is the VTOL rides. Every time we have to hop onto one of those helicopters and wait through that, we have spent about as much time as we possibly could trying to find a way to skip those. So Prometheus, I also picked the wrong dialogue option here. I'm sure I'll learn that eventually. Yeah, so the dialogue trees in this game are kind of complicated. I don't think they're as complicated as we thought they were. We used to think that they were dependent on the thing previous, but I think they're like independent blocks. We just
I
haven't.
think they must be.
Yeah.
Because like I have definitely like messed them up, and I feel like some of them have been the same length as other ones.
Mm-hmm.
Where I would expected like something longer.
Something
or
to
shorter.
change. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You have a bunch of philosophical discussions with. Can you name them all real quick?
Prometheus, not Athena. The Sphinx,
Yep.
and third one is I forget the third one. What's the third one's name?
Pandora.
I always forget that one. I don't know why.
They're the parts of like the id, the ego, and the super ego.
Oh yeah.
Like
So that's the thing. We don't even see the characters in the speedrun anymore. I forgot their names. We don't even look at them.
box mop. Please never say that again. Not in my GDQ. All right. So over here we're actually approaching our lost lab here. That's why I didn't instantly beeline. This is also another part of the game where I wish I could do a lot more, and we have some interesting things that we could be exploring, but they're not quite there. So first, some forced dialogue with Byron. Second, we have some forced dialogue with the Somnodrome, which if I hit the dialogue wrong here, I will be forced into a 45-second cutscene, so let's not do that.
Let's not do that.
Middle option. All right, popping off. There's a hole in the
Nice.
ceiling there. That's the one hole in the ceiling that gives me hope that we can skip some of this.
Yeah, right. Yeah, here's basically our last required lab of the game, and so after this point, it really is just tower, get out of level, tower, get out of level from here on out. These little cutscenes are often when we get a little bit of the lore and kind of the background of the game. Like for example, Miranda shows up again here, providing a lot of like the insight of the game, and so you have to play the game for yourself to hear a lot of that.
You don't want to
lore.
spoil it?
Yeah, no. I don't
Miranda
wanna spoil it,
dies.
do you? No. That's funny. Well, not funny, I should know.
Wow.
Yeah, I knew that.
Yaqut is real torn up about that in
Yaqut is
in South 3, which we'll never get to see because those labs are technically required too, but boy howdy, we don't use them.
Yeah,
right.
we do not, and that's technically where you could choose like a really important decision in the game too, where you can choose like who you're. I almost don't want to spoil it. I don't want to spoil it.
It's for GDQ. The folks who are watching GDQ, if you're interested in playing Talos Principle 2,
yeah, right.
feel free to turn off the stream and accept. Okay,
Yeah, right.
so-
Exactly. It's accepted. You don't have to see anything else in the game. We'll just be good to go.
Yeah.
Just trust us. It's a great run.
I'm gonna trust my gut on this one. There's no dialogue coming out of here. Okay.
Yeah, you should be fine. There's only one.
I did mess up though. I forgot to do the photo mode thing. So we're not going to pop to the bottom. So we'll be able to see the length of an approximate capsule ride coming into somewhere, which is fine. I could have stopped it, but instead of skipping right about here-ish, we're just going to wait through the entirety of this. So we'll skip that next time, I promise.
Yeah, no, but this is a good like comparison to show like how long it could be instead of just already having loaded into the level and like saving all this time that we're waiting for. But yeah, that's how tight or how much time you can save, and it's really important.
I also have to get out.
But yeah, you also notice in this game one thing that I'd like to call out just in general about the game as a whole is like I just love like the atmospheres and like all of the big structures and stuff. You can tell like a lot of like love went into this game. Like it's just like just like looking around, it's like a very grand kind of game, and I just love that about it. And like you really don't see a ton of it, but you can kind of just look around and see how many structures and like all the atmospheres and environments and stuff.
An incredible amount of detail in everything that's put together. Which is no surprise coming from the folks who made Serious Sam 4, which contained one of the largest game maps ever made. And a battle sequence that had like 100,000 enemies in it or something like that. This Qump. Alright, that's okay.
You didn't have to do that. You could just run up it.
I could have just run up it. I forgot. Alright, so we're gonna pop into okay. I'm gonna try this type of skip instead.
This is a 3-stack, right? This is the one that...
No, this is not the 3-stack yet. So I'm instead gonna do the capsule leaving method because I forgot to do the photo mode, and I think I hit it. We'll see real quick.
It looked like you did. This is North 3.
There's two types of dialogue skips. Seems about right, doesn't it? Oh yeah, there
Yeah,
she goes. Okay.
yep, you're good.
Great. Okay, so there's actually two ways to skip dialogue, which matters. One of them is using photo mode, which is consistent every time, and the second one is the one that I did there because I forgot to enter the capsule with photo mode, which is if you leave a capsule at the same time as sending it forward, you will encounter a checkpoint in the middle of that dialogue while the capsule is leaving without you, and you can reset. Unfortunately, it's like semi-consistent at the moment. It would be the fastest way to do things because it would mean that we wouldn't have to tab and then pause a bunch of times, and it'd save like half a second every time that we did that. But it comes at the cost of possibly just losing a bunch of time from having to leave the capsule. So I just do it as a backup strat at this point, but it may come to the point when the run gets to GDQ time that we actually do it for real. So
Yeah. So you're fine.
I guess the oh
yeah,
yeah,
go
go for it. Explain more.
Yeah. No, yeah, so we're about to hop into Megastructure 2. And Megastructure 2, not too dissimilar to Megastructure 1. It's kind of a similar sequence, but with some distinct differences. So you'll notice that if you remember that major door that we have to maneuver around in Mega 1 was just kind of we have to go down, up, and around kind of thing. This one is a little bit different. We're basically just trying to find holes in the environment where we can just bypass having to do all the lasers to open the door. And so we were able to, the community was able to find a hole for this door as well. And so we can basically skip all of the lasers again on this level, which is awesome.
I messed this up again. I think it must be something to do with photo mode.
This happened to me. This happens to me all the time. It's
This
so
one's extraordinarily consistent in how I have to spam left click instead of right click. All right, there we go. So, what else is it in this area? Oh yeah, so we had to wait for a door in Mega 1, which I complained about because it was 15 seconds. There's another door that we're gonna have to wait on over here. Unfortunately, haha, just kidding. I'm gonna turn right here. I'm gonna do a bunch of Qumps up the wall. Oh yeah.
Nice.
And then yeah,
Nice.
around the collision over here, up this wall this ways.
Another one here.
This is
And again,
pickled human
big gap
skull.
to run here. I mean, I cannot express again this method, just getting through the air at this distance, is immensely precise. This takes a lot of practice and really knowing what you're doing in regards to the button presses, because again, it's a frame perfect jump. So getting across these gaps is very, very technical. I'm kind of letting him do his thing here, but like even this jump is like immensely difficult. So it's just fantastic. You haven't really, you've been doing a great job.
You can keep commentating while I'm doing these.
Yeah.
This is my
sure.
favorite one here because
Yeah.
I'm gonna start a little bit elevated to give myself the best shot possible. In general with Qumps, if you're doing them horizontally, you want to start higher because you can miss more Qumps on the way, if that makes any sense. Every time you hit a photo mode, it stops your downward momentum regardless. Oh yeah, there we go.
There's that hole. Yep.
Yeah, you can stop your downward momentum by hitting photo mode regardless of whether or not you hit the jump afterwards. So the original version of this tech was called gliding, where what you would do is, where is my cursor? Second? Nope. I'm trying to alt tab. There it is.
That happens all the time.
The cursor's the cursor
Yeah, I
disappears on
know.
the regular. What was it? Oh yeah, gliding. So the idea is that you could make longer jumps by just spamming photo mode and forward a bunch. And then we figured out that with frame perfect jumps, you could actually add height to the equation, and then you just make it across everything.
In this one here, you saw that we dropped through that hole when we first came into the level. Now, similar to the first mega structure, we actually need to send it through that same way we came in. So we basically have to go, instead of going horizontal all the way to that door, we have to just go straight up and out through that door. A couple things you could do with this level on our way out. It's basically an escape sequence. One thing you could do is you can run all the way around if you like. But one thing that we do here, it's a little bit faster, is to go here and get to this little island, restart the checkpoint, and it basically just sends you forward in the escape sequence. And so we save a little bit of time escaping out of here instead of going all the way around. We're able to go, I think, like halfway through the sequence or so. Maybe a third, like that.
The level is intentionally split into two halves, and you do one half on the way in and then the second half on the way out. And so what I did is I went from the second to the first. I hit a checkpoint that should not be there. I reset,
really
which sent me back, well, it set me back, quote unquote, which means I got to go forward through the escape sequence. and then I just did a little bit of clumping to make the rest of the way there. So.
And then a little bit of lore and why this is happening. And so basically the gods are mad at us now, long story short. So one of our friends got trapped in the megastructure, Byron. So he's trapped here now. And a lot of the game, we're going to try, not a lot, I don't want to spoil too much, but a lot of the game is going to be trying to get him back, and get him out of the megastructure. And so he is trapped here, and we're kind of trying to get out to save our own tail before the rest of our team goes down like him. So that's kind of the whole lore behind this escape sequence.
We will definitely free him, I promise.
Yeah, totally.
You know, I suppose to give a little bit of a peek under the curtain, right before this, I was going to bed, but then before that, I was actually trying to find a way to see if on our way you could hit the checkpoint for freeing Byron and Mega 4 by falling out of the VTOL ahead of time, hitting that checkpoint, and then you would skip part of the VTOL ride, but it doesn't work because you don't have collision while you're in the VTOL. So we still don't have any VTOL skips yet, but that would have been the way, was freeing Byron. Literally freeing Byron. So we're going back to the we're gonna go to, oh wait, where?
Terminal now, yeah.
Oh, I forgot. This trick actually makes this submission worth it. I forgot. Okay, no,
this is the coolest trick ever. I don't know if you want to describe it.
So we have VTOL interaction. I guess we were really blitzing at the beginning of this run. Every time that we go to sleep, which is a thing that we do in order to conserve power when we're making long flights, we talk to this character named Elohim, who comes from the first game. But the first time that we do it, we enter Elohim's space, and then we instantly leave it. And that's because Elohim doesn't know what to say because we skip so much in the intro, but now he's actually going to talk to us.
Do not lose hope, my child. In these difficult moments,
I wish we could skip these. I mean, I like Elohim as much as the next guy, but I'm doing nothing.
That's so funny. So the next area that we're in, it actually sends us back to our terminal. So back to the city. So in the city is probably one of the most unique skips in this game. We don't really see anything like it the rest of the run, and it's very, very cool. I'm assuming you're probably going to try it, right?
Oh no, I have to go for it. It saves like 10 seconds.
You have to. Yeah. Do you want to describe it, or do you want me to?
Yeah. I mean, I'm just going to throw in the fact that it's called Turbinal, as in a turbo terminal, and then I'll let you can go off. Go for it.
Sounds good. So, long story short, if you remember, a lot of the time, so we're getting into these, like, for example, the capsule, right? We're getting in by pressing a couple buttons at the same time with photo mode kind of thing. That is not, that's pretty similar to what we're going to do here, not too dissimilar. So what we're going to do here coming up is we're going to load up into a similar terminal to what we've seen before. It's about all the way across the city. So we're going to run and sprint normally, like our regular speed that we normally would across this entire city, which takes so long.
Get your stopwatches out so that you can record how long this distance from here to here takes. But it literally is walking in a straight line.
Yeah.
We're going to compare it to the journey back. Like,
yeah, right. The journey back is an interesting one. So what we're going to do here is we're going to kind of just fast forward through the dialogue here for the person in the museum. And then what we're going to do is we're going to hit photo mode when we're entering into our little terminal here. We're going to talk to we're going to go to a different terminal in the museum that has like an FPS uncapped like command basically. And so what we're going to do is we're going to interact with that after we hit the photo mode on the first terminal. And by doing so, our movement is like attached to our FPS limit. So like you'll see the FPS will go to unlimited here so we can move as fast as possible. And so now we're going to hit this and change our FPS, right? Yep.
That is correct.
And then you're
you
going
are
to see
pushed into the terminal. So basically the game thinks that we're standing at a terminal right now. And so it pushes us into it dependent on your frame rate. Okay. Okay. We could clip through the floor here. All right, we're not clipping through the floor here.
Clean.
So we're going to be able to skip this. Unfortunately, I'm forced going forward, and I don't want to clip through the elevator here. So what's going to happen is right at the top here, I'm actually going to restart checkpoint. And that saves an inconsequential amount of walking time, but it is very funny. And so that's why
it looks very cool. It's so cool to watch. And so that kind of shows just like with game dev. I mean, like obviously there are some points where people don't cap with, like people think you're like interacting with an object, and then if you change your FPS, it'll like it'll move. The ticker will be able to move quicker, so you're able to move a lot faster. And so that was a good example of that.
Right. I'm trying to think. There's not a lot of FPS dependent tricks in this run. In the original Talos, it was notorious for bigger FPS is better, for better or for worse. I ran the highest FPS category because I had the NASA computer in our community. But in this game, there isn't quite as much. Well, in fact, the fact that we're running at 30 FPS more often than not is kind of like a cosmic irony, in that now everyone's running at the worst possible FPS.
Yeah, it's completely opposite.
So far, I think the only discoveries that were made are A, that terminal pushing forward is FPS dependent, and B, you jump higher at higher FPSs, but not enough to matter. So
Yeah, that part I didn't know. Interesting.
yeah, so just in case you ever want to cross a long distance in a category where like we're not clumping across distances, you probably want to go higher is better.
Gotcha. Cool.
I know there's an example in E2 where like you want to do that, but it's not strictly necessary. In case you ever get around to running those categories.
There you go. Yeah, and there's a few different categories. I don't know if we ever actually described the different kinds of categories in this game.
Go for it, yeah.
Yeah, so the run we're doing obviously right now is obviously any percent. We're submitting here for GDQ. So any percent is basically what you'd imagine. It's uncapped. You can do anything in the game to get to the end of the game, right? There's another category for bridgeless, for bridge jump lists. Which is basically saying, okay, you have to collect 8 levels in each level in order to proceed and get the tower. So in this run, you're going to see us just get to the tower and get out of the level as quickly as possible. The bridgeless jumps, what we're doing here, or the bridge jumps, but that run would be without those. You'd be collecting all eight levels, all 8 puzzles in the level. So yeah. It's really cool. It's much faster to do it anyway we can, obviously. This is way faster.
Right. The biggest deal with those categories is that I'm skipping a bunch of dialogue here. We have to skip a bunch of dialogue in a row because it's all queued up, because this level is just structured like that. I have no other explanation for it because nothing else in the game works like this. But yeah, I have to skip dialogue like 3 times in a row. So the important part about a no bridge skip and NPNL, which is a category that's we're getting there, is photo mode is the thing that is most easily targeted as the thing that not necessarily trivializes the game, but you skip everything when you have photo mode. So we have a bunch of categories in the works that people are running where instead of hitting photo mode to do a bunch of jumps or whatever, you can't do that. You can't use the photo mode, and it opens up a lot more opportunities to have interesting or different bridge skips. For example, in this level, it is possible to skip this bridge by setting up 2 cubes over on that little ivory tower over there. I hate it. I've tried to do it a couple of times. It's very bad, but shoutouts to Amaranth or Ninja, who has and Ed EDDD, who's done runs of these categories that involve that skip. I have nothing but envy for their ability to do skillful things, whereas I'm just doing Qumps over here. Thank you very much.
Very cool. So yeah, I mean, so this area, I guess this part that we're in is in our south area, and south is pretty straightforward, more or less. South and west are common. The second half of the levels are like not too bad. It's just a lot of like a quick photo mode launch into the capsule and then going from there. No labs in this area or anything, so it's really just kind of timing out our journey to the capsule, making sure we can get there in time and get to the next one, jumping between them. So you'll see that here. We're already done with our first one in a matter of like a minute or two. So.
It's interesting in the upper right, if you can see that. Oh, I have dialogue. I forgot.
No, good call. Yeah.
I have dialogue. It is not plot related dialogue, so it's not required. I could restart checkpoint to skip it. Completely slipped my mind. We're fine. Don't want to be doing. Hold on. Yeah, we'll wait until we finish this level here for me to do the tab skip. So for each of these south levels, I should be going to a bunch of labs. There's like a little marker that tells me, hey, go to this lab to unlock the bridge. Go to this lab to unlock the bridge. we're not going to do any of that because we're not using any of the bridges. So
Yeah, you'll notice that all the bridges, as we're hopping over them, they have this like static electricity kind of view on them, and because of the lab, because of the labs, we skip the labs, and because we're just jumping over, right? So because we're jumping over, we don't need to go to the labs like I just described. So, yeah, we can just you see the electricity on those cubes. You can just kind of hop right over. We're good to go. Go up into the tower. Good to go. And the end of this level is kind of unique, similar to the one level in North where we were just kind of falling out of the world. We're gonna have a quick transition here with the dialogue. And what we're gonna do here is on the right hand side here, we can actually just like fall out of the level in order to avoid having to go through the elevator. So we can just fall out, hop onto like one of the platforms here. We can go right here, a little bit more direct paths. So we have less jumping to do here. So right on there, perfect. And then
I have to wait for the checkpoint to fire because if I hit it too early, I actually get warped back to the lost lab. So
yeah,
we'll just wait here for a little bit. All right.
Now we're good.
And then once I hit this checkpoint, there is dialogue that's playing as a consequence of finishing the tower laser that we can skip by resetting checkpoint. And so now I don't have to do any actual dialogue skips here. I can just set up the photo mode here and go. So I don't have to help Melville at the lab at all. That is my favorite lab, for the record. That's the one where you do a text adventure.
Yeah, yeah. I love how this game calls back like they had a lot of text adventures. I don't know about a lot, but they had a few text adventures in the first game that they kind of brought back into this game, and they have like a Gehenna memorial and stuff for all that stuff, which is very cool. A lot of callbacks from the first game, which is really neat.
Here's S3, which is it's a really interesting structure for a level. I'll give them that.
Yeah.
So normally this elevator is gone, and you're supposed to unlock it, but you know, we're doing this. But there are 4 levels in the pit, and then there's 4 levels out of the pit. And it has presented an interesting conundrum when you're attempting to do routing, because you spend a lot of time not wanting to go down there. Okay. I got to do a little bit of a jump here as well. The lengths of these elevators is different, like wildly different. There may be an expectation of routing where like longer conversations we should try to set up at longer elevators, because the order of each of these levels, S1, S2, S3, can be intermixed. We just choose the one that we choose because hitting enter goes to the quickest one. But there may be a universe where like we go S1, S3, S2 or something like that, so that we could, just for the express purpose of lining up the dialogue with one of those entities, with a longer elevator.
And also casually in this game, and for the bridgeless and photo mode-less levels or runs for this game, that level specifically is just a nightmare because it's so much running around, and the level is just so big. It's so big, and there's so many like interesting little references that they make in there. So I don't know. It's a really long level casually. You learn a lot. That's actually where you learn about Miranda dying that level. So
spoilers.
How dare you? I know, right? We wouldn't leak it at the real run. Don't worry. Yeah. So you kind of see even there, the game tries to like boot you out of the capsule at the end of that level. That was just diabolically funny to me.
That was my mistake. I shouldn't have done that. Worst case scenario, what would have happened is I would have fallen through and I would have died after the point I would have gotten the checkpoint. So I would have just respawned up top, but it would have wasted time. So I just don't want to do that.
Right, no.
We're not supposed to be. In order to save time, you don't want to be doing photo mode interaction canceling there. We're hitting Mega 3. This is a level. How do you think of this one, actually?
I don't think this is too bad if you're okay with the horizontal bumps.
Oh, sure.
Like, I think if you're good with horizontal, this level is like not a huge... So here's my thing. I think the first 2 mega structures are if you're good at vertical, you're set. If you're good at horizontal, these ones are good. You know, so... This level is a lot of horizontal movement. You'll see that the room that we're about to go in is very, very large, and there's like a bunch of chains that we're gonna have to hit. They're very separated, and so we're gonna have to hop across the room, which is the quickest way to get between chains. So you'll see that coming up here in a second.
Did I go for it? The elevator skip. Have you seen the elevator skip? I haven't done it in my most recent world record here.
I don't know. Maybe I haven't.
It's so stupid. I'm gonna go for it for the express purpose of
Memory.
showing off. Yeah, it saves like 1.5 seconds, but if I miss, it's very, very bad. So
Oh no.
we're just gonna do it. Oh, how do I explain this? So these there's 3 elevators. We're gonna take one down, one sideways, and then one down again. We can actually clip through each of these elevators, but the only one that has any express value to doing so is this one over here. So what I'm going to do, and probably not succeed at, well, first of all, I'm just going to mug the camera for a bit because we're waiting. But
That's great. Yeah. Hey, man.
I'm going to stand on the edge here. Oh, I don't even know how to do the timing for this. Worst case scenario, I mess this up and it's very funny. I can't jump while I'm in this elevator, by the way, so if I mess this up, I can't Qump my way out of this one. So, here goes. Got it? All right.
Oh my god, that's awesome. Nice, that's awesome.
Yeah, so by spamming photo mode, you clip out of the elevator. That's something that we literally found day 1 in the demo, but it was never something that we could ever actually use because, like, you know,
Right,
how
yeah.
often are you going to be able to do stuff like that? And we're gonna do it on the way back. We're gonna do it on the
That's
way
very
back.
funny.
I'm gonna clump across.
Yeah, and so
the-
here, as he focuses here, so what we're doing here is there's 5 chains in this room, and immediately to our right is the closest one, kinda to our entrance here. You can kind of take this room either left to right or right to left. I think right to left is probably a little faster, but really solid jumps here. We're getting a lot of height. You're able to just fall right on top of the level, which is the best way to do this. That was really great. Oh, getting the pin right off the bat is awesome. Normally, one of the characters can actually do that one for you if you just kind of show up in the room and disappear. So he actually does that one for you. But this next one, yeah, we have to go do ourselves. So we're hopping all the way over. You can take a break here, but Gelly's just going all the way as far as we can. First try. Very, very cool. That was really clean.
And
Wow.
then we can instantly restart checkpoint. Every time that you pull a pin, it restarts your checkpoint to the beginning of the Prometheus section here. So we're just we're doing it again.
Again, I have said this so many times. I cannot express how difficult these jumps are, especially at this length, this distance. Like getting that many jumps consistently in a row is just wild. So really, really good. Good job.
I'm actually going to interact with the. Oh, should I interact with the game here? Yeah, we'll interact with the game a little bit. It's fine. So we'll do this. Oh. I could be jumping across these bridges, but that bridge is probably faster to do. This one, oh yeah, I'm going to mention this while we're here. The bridge pieces rotate also depending on FPS, meaning that you complete bridges slower on lower FPSs. Since we're default 30, the bridges are actually way worse than they are at higher FPSs. So that bridge in particular, you have to rotate like 3 pieces to solve it. So you have to wait for pieces to finish. So instead I just decided not to. Whereas with that one I had to rotate 1 piece, but I had like the run up to where I could send the piece in before making it.
And like the vertical time that you're saving, just like having to go like spam upwards versus just like having a piece and run upwards is like so much better than having to just jump all the way up. One thing that you'll notice there is we actually use photo mode again there to just quickly do that. The chain does get disconnected no matter what. Well, not no matter what. If you do that successfully, it'll get unplugged, and you just see here really far chain to go for here. We have 2 more, I believe now, because I think that was the middle one. So we have 2 more here, and you can actually do the same thing. So this one you can tell that middle one's really high up, so we have a lot of room to fall here, which is awesome. So you get a lot of room to get this next one. Does an awesome photo mode setup, so it grabs that pin automatically as well. Really nice job. So the last pin in this level is a really long jump, very vertical. You have like a midway point that you can stop in here, and granted, again, you can at any point during these jumps, you are able to like, you know, land wherever you see, you know, any like physical object and kind of reset yourself, but it is obviously much faster to continue the sequence and keep going forward as much as possible. So gaining height and horizontal is kind of just going diagonally here is the most ideal thing you can do, and that is about as perfect. That is awesome. Oh my god, that was about as perfect as anyone could do that. That's amazing.
I could have landed on the thing sideways. So for the record, I'll say this. Quumping is slower in terms of horizontal speed because you have to pause so often, right? You're using that photo mode. And so like in terms of real time, you go slower because you're pausing every third of a second or so. So in general, you want to be running as much as possible. I don't want to be quumping everywhere because it's slower in terms of horizontal speed.
That's a split there.
Yeah, I finally got to split. We're only 2 minutes behind, which is kind of good. Like if I hit under 115 here, that's very funny. But yeah, so the general sort of principle is if you can avoid quumping horizontally, you should. But if you have to quump horizontally and quump as seldom as possible.
Yeah, like for that, I mean, for that level too, there's so much up and down, like leveling and placing pieces and stuff. That's just like the fastest way to do it for clumping. For that one.
I could have in that last one landed on top of something and maybe saved like a quarter of a second running instead of clumping, but I was already on the way and I was like, let's just do this.
Yeah,
I'm gonna do the skip here as well, or at least I'm gonna try to. If I fall here, again, very funny.
But yeah, so kind of the background of this whole area from Mega 3 is that we learn a lot of like the lore behind like what they're doing here. Oh my god, lands the elevator skip twice. That's wild. That's so cool. And that's such a cool skip.
It saves almost no time.
Yeah, it's like no time, but it's still cool to look at. Yeah, so the whole lore is like we're like kind of discovering, why they were doing all this and the science they were doing and, their theory of everything kind of thing. Again, the game does a better job of describing this than I can ever do, but they're kind of just realizing how much like of the world that they could do with the knowledge found in the megastructure. And so this is kind of the first time in the game where you as a player can be like, okay, well, how do I want to handle this? So the end of the game does a really good job of doing that.
I guess an interesting point in terms of the speed run for the choices to be made, other than like 100% categories, is that there is a section at the end where you get to invite all your friends to go on one last journey to do a thing. Spoilers. And it is optimal to make the least amount of friends possible so that you don't have to wait for them to leave the helicopter in an animation. Doesn't matter for this run for reasons that we'll see soon enough, but the modus operandi for a run that doesn't do quumping is to be mean to everyone and only have one friend.
Yep. keep the mayor where he is.
Yeah,
don't even talk to anyone else.
We will be keeping the mayor where he is. Oh yeah, there's a mayor in this game. Did you know that?
Yeah, his name is Herman. Nubis.
Herman Nubis. We're about to not interact with him very quickly.
We also give him a decent. We tell him to go screw off at the end of the game, which is very
maybe
funny.
you do. That's not the fastest dialogue option. To
I do it even if it loses time.
That's funny.
But yeah, so here we're actually going in a weird kind of way through here. So the mayor is actually present at the front of this little terminal for the capsule. He has a whole dialogue that we actually skip by literally just running around him. Like we just jump in the side instead of going in directly. And so we reset here, I think twice, to start the dialogue that would have happened going into our final area, which is our west area. And so we actually just go around the side to avoid the mayor from talking for like 30 seconds or whatever.
Oh, it's like 10 seconds, but
okay,
it's worth it because Hermanubis is infamously I don't know how you describe him, boring.
Yeah.
Like licking paper, like just not a guy you want to talk to.
Yeah, not even like I'm purposely not an interesting character, I think. Like intentionally supposed to be like very political.
That's the thing though. Near the end he kind of is interesting, but that's only if you
totally.
care.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. All right, so here is West 1. This is our first level in the final area of the game, or the final we have the cardinal directions: north, east, south, and west. And west is our final area that we unlock. So this one is even more like this. These 3 levels are not too bad. Would you agree that these are like a breeze after the last few?
In regards to like the jumps that you have to make?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not the worst. I'm trying to think about. So West 3 you can definitely mess up and that's fine. True. W2 if you mess that up, that's a reset. For this one, we just have to clear the water here. The water here is actually so shallow. I mean, you'll drown if you try to cross it. But if you bring a hexahedron, which we also haven't seen in the duration of this game, it's just a cube. It gets you a little bit higher. you can use just that and escape it out of a puzzle and jump over the river one way and then jump over the river the other way. So it is possible to do none of the puzzles in this game as long as you grab one cube. I should mention, we don't want to touch water. If you ever hit water at any point in the game, or well, not any point in the game, but if jumping across here, I get too low into the water, which I shouldn't, but you know, it's a thing to keep. Oh gosh. Yeah, okay. So if I was to touch the water there, the game won't let you enter photo mode underwater because I don't know, which means you can't save yourself. you'll just drown. You're just done. So hopefully we won't see that. All right.
Yeah, and come up here. It's like we do similar to the first level. We do one reset and one checkpoint reset here with photo mode, and then so we do that, and similar we restart. It'll just restart the level, and then we'll do that same thing, and it'll launch us into West 2.
Yep.
And we do that for all 3 levels inside of West to get through here.
Do you have any opinions about W2 before we get there?
I like the statues.
Do you? Okay.
I like them. I don't know. Is it like, I don't know. I think it's
I just think it's very funny entering this level, because normally there's a dialogue here where Yaqut is like, I'll just let you see it for yourself.
Yeah.
I like them quite a bit too, but they are very freaky, and we'll encounter more of them very shortly.
Yeah, they're very weird. They are kind of, they're very kind of wild looking. I don't know. I thought this was a very cool level when I first played this. It's obviously very stunning.
It's yeah. Aesthetically, probably the coolest one. In terms of puzzles, W3 is my favorite because of the quality of those puzzles. They're very. I don't know if you ever played Gehenna Star World. The Great Sigils. You didn't play the Star World for Gehenna. All those puzzles are basically like that, where it's like, yeah, you have 2 connectors, go figure it out.
Right. Yeah.
Just excellent. There's a lot of people. There are a lot of folks out there who are like, the puzzles were not as good in this game, and I wholeheartedly disagree. Unfortunately, I can't.
I love the puzzles.
I can't prove it to anybody because we're not doing any of the puzzles. But like, that's, you know, standard fare for a Talos principal speedrun anyway.
Yeah.
But I like all the puzzles in this game. I only skipped 3.
Yeah, we don't actually see a lot of like the tech in this game too, which is like a shame, because we don't have to get to see a lot of like the cool little things that we discover for tools and stuff. Like we have like teleportation and gravity and like all of these different things, and so reversing. We see reversing a little bit at the end of the game, but that's what I call it at least. But so I mean, yeah, so this level, even in terms of like bridgeless, so in the level where in the version of the speed run of this game where we don't do the quumping and we actually have to complete 8 levels, there are some really cool skips and some pieces of movement where we like fall through the level here and just fly around and grab sigils and stuff. It's very cool.
And then we're gonna enter this one, and this will be, I think it's the last. No, it's not the last dialogue skip, but it'll be the last something or other over here. W3 is one of these levels where you have like an interesting decision to make in regards to whether to horizontally Qump the whole thing or to run up to it and vertically Qump, because like I've mentioned before, horizontally Qumping is technically slower than just running along the ground. But if I was to just run up to the base of this thing and vertically Qump up it, I'd have to hit 4 or 5 in a row. I almost forgot to do the thing. You'd have to do 4 or 5 in a row perfectly in order to save time, and so like that's kind of the balance that you have to strike. Is do I want to be good, or well, I guess we're going for this anyway.
We're going the vertical way.
So we're going the vertical way. All right.
I guess we're still going horizontal regardless.
A little bit, yeah. Oh,
a little bit.
Close enough.
Nice.
All right. I could have definitely done a little better there. Every time I rotate the camera here, my cursor position is also similarly rotated. And in case you've noticed, I have to have my cursor in the lower right to be doing any sort of clumping. So if I turn my camera at all, I have to do repositioning, which is a little bit of a pain. So
yeah, that's
another
half
one of
the
the
battle.
things.
Like,
Yeah,
it's like clicking in the right spot. It's like very silly. like not only are you doing timed input, but you also have to click physically on the screen too, which is something we never really talked about. But yeah, it's a lot of stuff all in one trick.
And now we're just about done here. I think we skip a dialogue coming out of the this level here, and then we're going to do Mega 4, which will be the final journey to save Byron. Byron, our trapped compatriot who flew too close to the sun. They ate the tree of knowledge. I don't know. Insert your favorite metaphor here. And so we're gonna go save him from whatever doom he's enraptured. Oh, I mean, I guess I kind of already gave away the game that we're definitely not doing that. But like, let's just pretend for a little bit longer.
Yeah. Exactly. So coming up here, so that was our last kind of, so again, this is our last puzzle level of the game. So, you know, we've had, you know, North 1, North 2, North 3. This is, West was our last section of the game. And so these were the last like real puzzles that we're going to discover. We actually have new puzzle tech coming up. We're actually going to do a puzzle in the game, funny enough, coming up here shortly. But before that,
maybe you do. I don't know if you've seen those. We definitely do not do this puzzle anymore.
Really? Wait,
kind of. I mean, I think I remember seeing your speedrun that you did just a second. Oh, I have to talk to Herman Ubis here. I'll for you. I'll tell him to shove it.
Yeah, let's go.
Make that a donation and
yeah. Tell the mayor to go screw off.
Yeah, I remember seeing you doing that puzzle semi-intended where you set up the thingamabob to do the quantumabob and all that sort of stuff. No, you don't have to do. You don't have to do some of that stuff.
Noted. That's funny. But I mean, coming up here, so this is our final like sequence of the game. This is more or less the boss battle, so to speak, if you want to call it that. Yeah. So coming up here is the longest. I think the longest Qump of the game. I think.
Oh, absolutely. 110%.
I was gonna say I thought it could be close. I'm doing the chains, one of the chain sections, but I think this is the longest.
It's the hardest one for sure.
Yeah. So here, as I mentioned before, horizontal Qumping, you really need to make sure that your timing is right because you could so easily ruin your horizontal momentum. This is even more so important here because you have an insanely long section of gap that you need to run with Qumping, and so it's really important to keep that cadence going throughout the whole time. So you'll see that coming up here in a second.
Do you want to explain what we're skipping? Because like, it might be weird to note that this is the same map for two different sections of the game, kind of.
Yeah, and so this level, what we're doing right now is technically Act 4, and so in Act 4, we're basically going to interact with the three gods, like, you know, Sphinx, Pandora, and oh my god, my brain.
Prometheus, you got him.
Prometheus, my brain, it's late for me.
You're fine.
Prometheus, so we normally would go interact with all them and they kind of tell us about like some holy thing that they're talking about. And so long story short, we're actually going a different route, so we're going the sideways way to kind of go to what would be the start of Act 5 instead of going through Act 4. And so Act 4, it makes us go through this entire thing. It shocks us, brings us all the way back to the main town or city, but instead we skip all of that. We don't go forward here on this bridge, and normally in Act 5 our plane just keeps flying through this yellow gap across the way, and so what we're doing here is we're actually skipping most of Act 4 and we're going directly over to Act 5 where we would start Act 5. And so this traversal was so fast. That was really good.
My hands are starting to cramp up at that point.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so you have to maintain like a decent amount of height, plus you have to keep up the speed, etc. We're also going to skip an elevator here. This is a new one. I found this not but a couple hours ago.
Oh wow.
You can instead, there we go, skip this elevator by running down the back, and then as long as you hit this checkpoint, everything should be loaded in correctly. Instead of solving this puzzle, you can instead Qump over this fence with this inverter, and the red turns into blue, and the red is red. So,
what?
Yeah. Why bother doing anything?
That's new tech as of today. So
that's new tech for you.
Okay.
And then over here we're in dystopia. Do you want to explain? Well, I'll
if
just
I
give it
can
a
do
5-second summary.
Yeah, so at the end of the level, you're basically deciding if what would happen to the world if good things happen and if bad things happen. So we have 4 levels in Utopia and Dystopia that we have to complete. We have to do both in the normal game, but there's an exit out in both Utopia and Dystopia. The Dystopia one is closer, so we just go quickly through here to get to our ending. They both lead to a similar ending here with an elevator. So.
Yep, and then time ends when I have the final input with Athena, which is we're freeing Athena from this whole thing. That's kind of the story. All right, looks good here. And it's just going to be a talking sequence. We've actually done so little of the game that we don't get any proper cutscenes at the end of the game either. It like doesn't know what story options to give us, so we end up getting a couple black screens and then the game's over. So time.
That is very...
And there we go. 1:14:49. Not bad.
Nice.
And that's time.
Awesome.
Yeah. So thank you very much for watching. Thank you much for your consideration. Thank you very much, BobbyBurm, for helping me out on the commentary journey.
Of course. Last thing I'll say for me is like, I mean, this game kind of has everything. It has like the visual piece. It has like amazing movement and a lot of visual skips that people would really love. And so I think this run more than a lot of other games that I've submitted, I think this would really shine at a GDQ. And do a really great job. And we're finding skips every day, every week, so it's only going to get better from here on out.
I should hope things improve. Yeah. I will say Talos has a storied history at GDQ a little bit, and so it'd be nice to have like Talos Principle 2 show up, especially so soon after the game coming out. So that's it from us, I think. Thank you very much.